Welcome to the first episode of Couples Therapy, Sports Edition, where compromise is extremely important, except on game day. My name is Zach.
I'm Tina.
We've been together for a little over a year now, family that we started, but we wanted to get a little bit more perspective out there to the people. Um, we bonded over sports, from the moment that we met, so we wanted to just find an outlet, really talk about our opinions, even if they may be controversial. We may not always agree, which I think is pretty healthy in a relationship, especially with a sports thing. I think it's a really good outlet for a couple. So we're going to talk about some sports, maybe talk about some shit that you guys won't agree with. That's okay. You don't have to agree with us. And we just want to get into the topics and share our views with you. And if you agree, fine. If not,
That's cool.
that's
We can
also
still be
that.
friends.
I think the biggest headline where we start is the end of that Lions game. You know, some questionable calls at the end of the game. I think the OPI against St. Brown. I mean, give Jalen Ramsey his Oscar for that performance that he gave. I mean, it was a clear offensive pass interference, but he definitely sold it to the refs.
When does he not?
That's the guy's been doing that for years. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
great corner, but he's been doing it for years.
He knows how to work the system.
He knows how to work the system. He's a veteran. Um, but I think they got hosed on a couple of calls towards the end, and I think that's really going to start begging the question: when do we start holding the refs accountable? Um,
I think they're about to. I think they're about to do that soon.
Dear God, I hope so, because the NFL is starting to get very unwatchable in that respect. You really can't have, Puka Nakua said it best when he was on that live stream. Yeah, of course. I think at the end of the day, the refs can't be deciding the game like that at the end of the game. That you got to let the players play. I understand it was a, questionable push off, but, two plays prior, they got called for an OPI on a touchdown that should have been for St. Brown for a pick play. Tesla got he got sandwiched in between two defenders. What's he supposed to do there? So I think some questionable calls at the end of the game there. The refs ruining the game of football is something that we could probably talk about for hours, but we just don't have the time.
We could probably have a. So it was definitely an OPI. There's no question. He pushed off. St. Brown pushed off on whoever it was, and then Goff was cute, tried to catch the ball and then run it in for a touchdown. I don't know. The refs literally looked like they could go either way, and then Goff was like, trying to sweet talk them and like make his case, which I get, like, good for you. But that was a tough game to watch. You guys obviously didn't see it, but I was literally jumping out of my chair trying to like watch this game and I couldn't sit still. And this is not even a team that I like root for, but I root for it for him. Plus I like Jared Goff. I'm just a sports girly. So there's that. But at the end of the day, you know, that Lions game was a steamy one, and it was literally nail biting down to the wire. And the Steelers just played better offensively and defensively, unfortunately. And the Lions have been inundated with secondary issues all year. Um, Quite literally, I think they're like fifth man up at this point. I think
I
like
mean,
I don't even know.
they're missing both of their starting safeties, two starting cornerbacks. I mean, it feels like last year all over again when we were just missing guys from the front
Yeah,
seven. So it's we've had a rough couple of years in terms of injuries, and I think that's also going to beg the question, how Dan Campbell is coaching, in the preseason. I think he maybe pushing the guys a little too hard, and it's wearing down their bodies way too soon.
I
Um,
agree.
but enough of that because I could bitch about the Lions for hours.
You really could.
And I have just not on camera. What we want to talk about, I think, is the last 2 days of football between the NFL today. A lot of great games that went on today.
Hmm.
A lot of surprises, I think, in my opinion. Um, Mainly want to start with college football. A lot of great games over the last 48 hours or so. That Alabama game against Oklahoma really just proven that they belong there, even though there were a lot of people that had issues with them making it into the playoffs, especially over Notre Dame. Notre Dame had their case, but um, Alabama came out to play. They came prepared in a hostile territory. against an Oklahoma team that had been up and down all year, but they finished the year strong after starting the year strong, having a couple of hiccups midway through the season. Um,
I was sad that that Oklahoma didn't win though.
Material looked good all year. I mean, to start in the first 6 or 7 games, he looked like a Heisman candidate, and obviously after his injury, their numbers dipped. He was averaging about 75 yards less per game through the air after the surgery that he had on his hand near his thumb.
But
His
kudos to him for playing with like an injured, repaired thumb.
John Mateer's a dog. I think he's going to be a really interesting prospect to follow going into the draft. There's going to be a lot of
Mm.
teams that, maybe a couple of teams that aren't ready to move on from their current quarterback, but could stash him on the bench, a la Jordan Love with Aaron Rodgers. Um, kind of let him learn under the current quarterback for a couple of years and then step in. I mean, he's got prototypical size, he's got a great arm. He's what NFL GMs and scouts are looking for. He has the ability to move outside of the pocket, make throws on the run, improvise, use his legs. So I think that's something that could be on the watch for.
Is he going into the draft?
Yeah, he's a senior.
Okay.
Just transferred from Washington State and then went to Oklahoma. Um, Made his presence known. So we'll see. He'll be an interesting guy to follow. We'll see how he does in his during the combine, maybe his pro day, depending on if he competes in both. But
What if like not that the Bills have a chance to like draft high, but
he won't go in the first round.
okay, that's fine.
Mateer might be a late second, early third round guy,
What if
just depending
like
on if his stock skyrockets during the combine.
what if like he like Josh Allen was just like, "Come here, let me scoop you under my wing." I could see that.
I could see it if Allen wasn't still so young.
That's
It's one of
fair.
those things
That's
where
fair.
maybe a team like you know the Lions can go in and try to scoop him up. Especially after this season. I mean, how sold are you on Jared Goff for the next 5 years?
How
What
sold are you on Jared Goff for the next
I
five
haven't been
years?
sold on him from the moment that they traded for him.
Stop, I love Goff.
I love Goff too. Outside of him being accurate and him being able to scope out some defenses, pre-play. What really does he bring to the offense? He's got good chemistry with his guys, but the moment that they
He
bring
just bought them, you know,
good
golf
for
carts.
him. It'll be a moment that they cherish forever when their offensive line say, "Oh, my former quarterback got me this." Um,
Here they could drive those golf carts down the field.
yeah, going
Touchdown.
going back to the college football
Sorry.
landscape. We're gonna get off track here. It's our first episode.
This is how it's always going to be. Don't let them lie to you.
Absolutely, this is how our everyday conversations go. But yeah, it'll probably always be like this. Going back to the college football landscape, obviously you saw the Oregon offense yesterday was unreal. Weapons that they've got, Dan Lanning. I think I kind of consider him like the Dan Campbell of college football. Not necessarily what their coaching styles, but
I love him.
the players buy into what he's selling. He recruits well. He develops well. You always see a lot of skill position guys come out of Oregon and start to have great NFL careers right off the bat, whether they're first rounders, third rounders, fourth rounders, whatever it might be. Um, I know it was against one of the weaker teams in the field, but Oregon just could do no wrong. Dante Moore looks like he found a home there in Oregon. He's going to be one of the first quarterbacks off the board after Mendoza. Um, you know, I think out of the teams that played, yesterday and Friday with Alabama, Oregon's got the best chance to make a deep run in the playoff field, mainly because of their ability to score at will. I think their defense you know, leaves some room for improvement. There are things left to be desired there, but I think overall, if you've got an Oregon team matched up with an Ohio State team, they've got the ability to score at will. Obviously, a Big Ten team, they could be playing anybody in the Final Four, but outside of those four teams, Oregon, I think, has got the best shot. You like to see what Miami did defensively, but boy, that offense is just not going to match up well with Ohio State. It's just not. Ohio State's defense has been good all year. Even in their one loss, they only gave up 13 points. I mean, their defense has just been elite all season long.
So wait, are you saying that Oregon is not going to do well against Ohio State?
I'm saying that Miami's not going to do well against Ohio State because Miami plays them next.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying if you have an Oregon Ohio State matchup in the Final Four or in the national championship game, I'd have to take another look at the current bracket right now. But it's gonna be a bloodbath, I think, with Miami and Ohio State. But it's a nice rematch from about 20, 25 years ago in the Rose Bowl. So I think that's gonna be a lot of fun, just the nostalgia of it all. But I think when it comes down to it, Indiana's obviously got to be the favorite. You got the Heisman Trophy winner.
Mendoza.
Mendoza was fantastic this year. I mean, I knew the kid had potential, but he just blew up this year. Good for him.
Yeah.
I mean, the first player in Indiana history to win the Heisman. Um, he's got scouts salivating over him. 6'6". He's mobile. He's got a rocket for an arm. He knows how to read a defense. He's smart. Um, I think a team like maybe the Jets could use him. The Saints could definitely use a
Mm.
quarterback. Especially they've got some talent on that offense. The Saints do, but I think Mendoza would be a good fit in New Orleans. Tennessee's got
Maybe
their
the Raiders.
guy. Yeah, the Raiders could use him too. I mean, they just drafted a Bowers is a great piece. You've got some good pieces on the defense, but I think a good quarterback would go a long way towards jumping them to the top of the AFC or at least competing. Especially while KC's down a little bit with guys aging out, Mahomes being down right now. But
Okay.
it is going to
College playoff bracket is
so if
Oregon, Texas Tech, Alabama, Indiana. That's going to be a great game.
it's going to be a fabulous
Ole
game.
Miss and Georgia,
That's also going to be a great game.
Miami and Ohio State. I feel like the Miami Ohio State game is going to be kind of boring in a sense that like Ohio State is kind of terrifying with their defense and offense. And like if you're looking at the game and Texas A&M game from yesterday, which was so today is Sunday. It was Saturday. Score was literally 10-3. I watched the whole game, and it was a snooze fest. They literally 10-3, and these two teams are in college, like they're in the playoffs. I don't know. For the record, new to college sports. I didn't really know much about college football, college basketball, college anything. I was always a major league sports girly until I met Zach, and then he started teaching me college football because he is a Michigan Wolverines fan. So I have also become a Michigan fan. We'll get there at some point. Has taught me a lot about college sports, but I still have a lot of questions because college is a little bit different than NFL. So that's where I watched the Texas A&M and the Miami game. I was really pulling for A&M, but I don't think they were pulling. I don't even know if they showed up yesterday. So as of right now, um, I the game I'm most excited about is Alabama and Indiana. That's going to be good, and that's going to be January 1st at 4 o'clock. So we've got quite some time before
I
that
think the
game.
Sugar Bowl is going to be the best of the four. Ole Miss and Georgia,
Mm,
both of them being in the SEC. Obviously, Ole Miss has a lot, a chip on their shoulder. Lane Kiffin leaving for LSU. I think that's going to be
oof,
a great,
yeah,
um, especially same thing, kind of like with Oregon playing James Madison, Tulane. They fought. I'll give it to her. They're Summerall. He's going to Florida. Best of luck to him. But Tulane had their run. Their fun in the sun. But hopefully they can stay competitive. It's kind of fun to see them in the playoff. You don't want to have the same teams in it every year, especially with this new 12-team format. We'll see how long they keep it. I know there's a lot of clamoring for getting a 24-team playoff format, which I feel like would just be chaos. I mean, we might as well just do March Madness for the NFL or for college football in just January or mid to late December. Um, there's a really good chance to be an all-time classic. The Sugar Bowl is always a fun one to watch. But to your point about Ohio State and Miami being a boring game, I think it's going to be one of those games. Ohio State's played in a lot of them this year, where they'll let the other team hang around, and then they'll just pull away in the second half.
yeah,
I think Miami's defense will keep them in the game. Maybe like a 13-3 score, 13-6 at halftime, and then Ohio State will just step on the gas and they just won't let off of Miami's neck in the
yeah.
second half. So I think that's going to be the end of Miami's season in that game, and that's the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, and that's going to be a really fun New Year's Eve.
It's going to be a great New Year's Eve. I mean, Michigan's going to be playing on New Year's Eve too, but who knows if we're even going to have a quarterback or a coach. So
All right.
that's going to
Well,
be a lot of fun.
speaking of quarterbacks, let's go to the Eagles clinched their playoff berth because their freaking division is so boring and terrible. You've got Dallas, you've got the Giants, and you've got the Commanders. I mean, come on.
I mean, I will say though, nobody expected them to run away with it this year because the Commanders were so good that last year. They made a run. I mean, the Eagles had to beat them in the conference championship game.
That's true.
Jaden Daniels was he was the rookie of the year last year, but they were decimated with injuries.
Yeah, but okay, here's my thing. They were decimated with injury, but also it was such a weird thing. Like he wasn't playing, and then Debo was playing, but then he wasn't playing, and then it's like then they traded all these people. Like their defense is better than their offense. I I don't get it. I don't easy. They have had a very easy conference win several years now because while the Giants this year their year because of Scadaboo and Malik Neighbors, but then Malik Neighbors got hurt and then Scadaboo got hurt. That's what I call him. That leaves what? Robinson and Theo Johnson and then like a couple older folks like
Tracy on a good day.
yeah. Then you've got the Commanders like we just talked about who are inundated with injuries and forever like in a day. And then you've got the Cowboys.
Whose defense couldn't stop Helen Keller in a snowstorm.
Okay, sure. we all I'm saying is that I think that the Eagles got off easy. That's how I feel. Um, but
They're going to be one and done in the playoffs. I mean,
I
they're
don't
all,
even know how they made it to the playoffs. They suck.
they made it to the playoffs because they won their division, but
I know that.
but I'm saying the I don't know who their first round draw is going to be. Might be Chicago, might be Chicago, could be Green Bay. Not 100% sure because obviously the NFC still has some
Yeah.
finalization to do. But their offenses looked so bad this year.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
when you look at last year and you look at the Eagles on paper
Yep.
with guys like Saquon, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Goddard is one of he's a top 10 tight end in the league. His ability to pass block. I mean, their offensive line, defensively, I think is a lot of the reason why they've won games because they're stacked on the
I would
from a
agree.
defensive
Their defense
perspective.
has won them
A
games.
top five corner in the league. You've got Cooper DeJean who plays really well in the slot, can do a little hybrid. Play as a safety, plays a nickel.
Mhm.
Um, Great defensive line. You even got Brandon Graham to come out of retirement. Shout out to my boy, Go Blue.
I love Brandon Graham.
Brandon Graham's amazing, fantastic guy. But it's just not going to play well in January. I mean, I know that a lot of teams, they limp into the playoffs and they come alive, when the lights shine brighter. But if they don't figure it out soon, I mean, they had an opportunity to really get their offense going yesterday against a really bad Commanders defense, and they couldn't do it. They didn't pull away until the
Nope.
last 5 minutes of the game. They looked sloppy all game. Missed field goals. Jake Elliott, what the hell happened to Jake Elliott? This guy used to have ice water in his veins. Now he's barely hitting from 40.
Yeah.
I know the wind was a little bit of a factor yesterday, but even on some redos, on some kicks, he was still shanking him to the left. He has not looked like his normal self last year. This year, it kind of reminds
None
me.
of their offense has.
It's given me some Justin Tucker vibes last year. I know he had different reasons to be distracted last year, but Justin Tucker was one of the best kickers of all time, and
Mhm.
never missed a field goal. And then last year he
I
just
drafted him on
fell
fantasy.
off of a cliff. I know I did too. I made that mistake, and I still won my league last year because I dropped him halfway through the year. But
Here's what I think though, and there's obviously been a ton of controversy around Philly and their offense and the offensive room, like wide receivers, O line, running backs, tight ends, etc., quarterback. Nobody's like talking to each other. They can't figure it out. I would agree that I think that they're not going to. I don't. This is not the same Super Bowl team that we saw last year. They
no,
were very structured, organized, put together all year long. And I'm not an Eagles fan, but I like football. And I watched most any games that I could. We watched the games, and they just do not look put together. I do not know how I know how they made it into the playoffs because obviously their division is weak, but I don't think that they will last very long. I think that other teams will kind of stomp them, and one of those teams could be the Bears, who
Oh
have
God,
clinched. I know this is going to be hard for you. Let me just say,
it's hurting my soul just to hear it out
is
loud.
it
Yeah,
okay? The Bears have clinched a playoff spot for the first time since 2020.
Ben Johnson, man. I'll tell you what. He's. I had my doubts. Really, when they hired him. Um, I knew he was going to be coveted after last year. The last couple of
Mm-hmm.
years. I mean, his offense with Detroit was. I mean, they were always top three in the league in scoring. Passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, whatever it might be. They were just blowing teams out of the water. His creativity on the offensive end. But I had my doubts mainly because you got a great offensive mind, but how does that translate to Caleb Williams? You know,
Yeah.
he had a rough year last year, and I don't really think all of that was on him last year. He didn't have a ton of people to throw to, he didn't have a ton of weapons, but also he was the most sacked quarterback in football. The guy had no time to throw. He
Wild.
was running for his life. He's a young kid trying to learn a new offense, with a coach that was mainly coaching for his job, not to develop Caleb Williams. And I think that's the difference this year is you've got a coach in Ben Johnson that knows that he just signed a brand new contract, knows that the expectations weren't that high for this year, with the Packers being who they were, the Lions coming off of a franchise best last year,
Mm-hmm.
the Vikings coming off a year where they made the playoffs last year, winning 14 games. The expectations were low for the Bears. They weren't coming in thinking that they were going to be giant slayers. They just wanted to stay competitive, and Ben Johnson wanted to develop some of his younger guys, including Williams, to be the franchise guy. Takes the weight off of Johnson, takes the weight off of Caleb Williams, and now they're sitting at 11-4, potentially going to clinch the NFC North and host a playoff game or two. I mean, shit. As a Lions fan, it hurts my soul because you never want to admit that one of your rivals is
Better
it's
than you.
which they are. The
They
Lions are
are.
ass this year. Let me just put that out there. The Lions are ass this year. Which again, I can get into that
Don't
at a
go off
different
on
day.
a
I'm
tangent.
not going off on a tangent. I decided to get that out. But I think there's a lot of good pieces that the Bears brought in this offseason that really fit to what Ben Johnson wanted to do.
Yeah.
He still wanted to kind of run his offense like they did in Detroit, being able to run the ball, you know, big shots down the field on play action,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of misdirection here and there, throwing some flashy plays where you can, just to give a spark to the offense. But you've really seen Caleb Williams take a step forward, and I'll be interested to see what he does in the playoffs. He never really played in any big games in college. Won the Heisman at USC under Lincoln Riley, and that's kind of where I'm getting the comparison. Lincoln Riley with Caleb Williams after he transferred from Oklahoma, and now Ben Johnson is just Williams is Lincoln Riley, but in the NFL. He's really untapping a lot of potential. I think he needs to cut down um, on the errant throws. I mean, yeah, they're working, but he's making a lot of throws recently where it's Ben Johnson's kind of holding his breath, but then they work. So no harm, no foul. But I feel like if he continues to make throws like that, it's going to burn them, come mid-January. But it's fun to watch right now, and I think it is honestly it's good for the NFL when the Bears are doing well.
You know what I think is interesting is the beginning of the season, they didn't do so hot and then they started getting really good, but then they started becoming the team that like wins in the fourth quarter. They started becoming the fourth quarter heroes.
Absolutely.
And then like we would watch all these like sports shows and talk shows and stuff like that, and it's like how long is this sustainable for the Bears? Well, clearly it's worked for them. I don't know if it'll work every year, but we were just recently talking about this during the Lions game that football is changing. These quarterbacks are changing. For example, Brady, Eli, Peyton, Drew, they were not great runners. They didn't really run the ball a lot. At least if you've never seen Tom Brady run, go look up a video. The
If you're
man cannot
if
run.
you're having a sad day, go watch that video and you'll get a good chuckle out of it.
What my point is that we were talking about is that we were saying that football is changing. These quarterbacks need to move their bodies and run, play a little bit more aggressive in the pocket and to get out of the pocket so they're not, standing in the pocket and being like, okay, twiddling my thumbs. You're seeing a lot of like Lamar was a really good one, right? He's a running quarterback. Josh Allen, Drake May, Caleb is now becoming one. So that's what we're talking about. Is what Caleb is. If you're really honing in and watching, that's what Caleb is doing. That's what Ben Johnson is doing. He's an OC mindset. So he's taken Caleb and he's really transformed him from a Matt Eberflus shit show to a Ben Johnson redefined offensive mindset. So that is just in it this year in football. It's like my favorite thing about sports is that it can literally go any which way. There's no 50-50 shot. It's football could literally take a turn one week to the next. And so speaking of turns, uh let's do some hot takes.
This is going to piss some people off. The Bills are going to be a first round exit this year.
Get out of here. No, they're not. No, they're not. No.
The Bills are absolutely going to be a first round exit
No.
this year.
No. I no.
Look at the field.
Which one? The green field?
Look at the playoff field.
Okay.
Look at the playoff field. Maybe outside of Houston. I know that the Bills beat New England last week.
They whooped their
They
behinds
beat
last
them by 4 points and they had to come back from 21 points down. I think the Patriots took their foot off of the gas, but
Yeah.
the Bills aren't going to win their division.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. The
No, they're not.
Patriots
They're
are
in
going
the
to win.
they're in the wild card.
They're in the East. The Bills may not. The Bills may have to go on the road
They're okay with that.
and play Houston or play New England or Denver. You know, if
Yeah.
Denver doesn't or Jacksonville. I just haven't seen the same flashes this year out of Josh Allen that I saw last year. Love the guy. Congrats on him being, a future father. It's great for him and Haley, but I'm not seeing it this year. I still think that what's going to get him over the hump in his career to win a Super Bowl, he needs a primetime go-to receiver. Diggs did okay. He had a couple of good years with Josh Allen when Josh Allen was still trying to develop, but Josh Allen is that quarterback now. He needs his own Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Smith and Jigba. He needs one of those guys that when it's all on the line, it's 3rd down and 7, game is on the line in the 4th quarter with 90 seconds left. He doesn't even know who he's going to throw it to.
He has that in a running back.
Obviously, you can, but that's when the defense starts to take that away because they know that he's the only weapon on the field.
Josh Allen is his best receiver.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He can make plays with his legs all day long. He's got incredible arm talent. He knows how to read a defense. He's a smart quarterback, but they've never surrounded him with that go-to all-pro type receiver. Stephon Diggs, he wanted out of Minnesota. He got that. He was in Buffalo for 3 or 4 years. Then he wanted out of Buffalo because he wasn't getting the ball enough. He needs a guy, like I said, like Chase, like Jefferson, St. Brown, Smith and Jigba, Puka Nacua. Like he needs that guy where he's like, you know what? It's 3rd and 7. I'm going to get it to my best receiver on the field. That way I don't have to make that play with my legs because the defense is going to be prepared for that.
He needs a Mike Evans.
If Mike Evans wasn't 33 years old, I would say yes.
No, I know that. I'm saying that's what he needs.
He needs that guy.
The problem is that the older that Josh Allen gets, the younger that these receivers get, like that are coming in. So I just don't know if he'll get that. That's the problem.
I also think the problem is too is there's not a lot of them, those change your franchise type receivers.
No. not anymore.
at the point of the first round where the Bills have been picking consistently for the past 5 years. They're always
Yeah.
picking in the mid to late 20s, if not the 30s, because they're one of the last four teams remaining.
Yeah.
Usually by then, those franchise-altering wide receivers are gone. Usually within the first 15 to 20 picks, if not sooner.
I said this to you in the very beginning. I think it was like week 1. I said the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. I don't know how, because Josh Allen, yes, Josh Allen has magic. I don't know how. I don't know why. But that was like, it was like the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. But they've also been inundated with injuries this year, right? They've also had players missing meetings and sitting out because they're doing whatever the hell they're doing. But I don't think the Bills are a first round exit. I think that they will make it to maybe the second playoff game, but they're going to have to work their booties off. Like they're literally going to have to give it all that they've got because there's some phenomenal AFC teams, okay? Like phenomenal AFC teams. Teams that we're not even really talking about. And I'm kind of nervous to talk about them because this is my hot take and I don't want to jinx it, but I think the Jags are the team to beat in the AFC.
Oh, I'm buying that 100%.
I think that I want to like give my bag of money and throw it at the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is some type of magician. I have probably said this for like the last 5 or 6 weeks that nobody's talking about the Jaguars. They're just kind of lurking in the background because it's like flashy Broncos, like, oh, the Broncos are doing it again, like Sean Payton and Bo Nix and
Here's the Patriots.
yeah, and like what? Because like, oh, the Patriots are like, I'm a New England girl at heart. I'm from Connecticut. I love the Patriots. I grew up a Patriots fan. Brady, Gronk. You can't see it. This is actually a Brady jersey. And when he came here, I was ecstatic. But anyway, the Patriots are doing something again, and it's exciting. And Vrabel's there, and he's a former Patriot. But the Jags, what? It's like I seriously once they got Jacoby Myers, it's like things changed, and they just took off. And you've got ETN, and you've got Jacoby, and I know like in the first couple of weeks, like it was weird because like him and Liam Cohen were like kind of not seeing eye to eye. Like you would see videos of them kind of like arguing on the sideline, and Trevor was just like literally like, "Shut up, dude, I got this." And then now they're on a flippin' roll, and I know they haven't clinched a spot yet, but they're literally doing some magical work behind the scenes. And I don't think they're being talked about enough, but I absolutely think that they are the team to beat in the AFC because they just whooped the poop out of Denver tonight.
I think my comparison with that is Liam Cohen is to Trevor Lawrence what Ben Johnson has been to Caleb Williams.
How do you mean?
Just in the AFC.
Mm,
They were both
yeah.
former number one overall picks.
Yep. That's right.
Really brought in to try to be the face of that franchise. And Trevor Lawrence has shown some flashes of it over his career.
Mm-hmm.
He's had some moments where he's like, all right, this is why we drafted this guy first overall. This is why he was so highly touted coming out of Clemson.
Yes.
Dabo Swinney did a great job with him at Clemson. Now he's going to come and turn these Jaguars around.
Yep.
They never built around him. They brought in ETN that same year. They were teammates in college. And, hopefully that chemistry was going to translate into the NFL. It just never did.
No.
The Texans have really been the team to beat over the past couple of years in that division. Obviously, the Titans, we won't even talk about them, even though they whooped on the Chiefs today, which was fun to watch.
You can whoop on a very hurt Chiefs team, like
26-9. That's crazy. But
yeah.
My point, I think, what I'm trying, because I think a lot of people forget, the Jaguars just picked second in this last draft. They were just one of the worst teams in football. Yes, they traded up from 4 to get to number 2 to draft Travis Hunter, who played in half of their games.
He got hurt though.
He did, but that's my point. They had a second overall pick, a Heisman winner last year that was supposed to come in and make an immediate impact. He showed some flashes as well. I think when he comes back and they figure out how to utilize him better,
I
I
think
think
he needs to pick offense or defense.
I think he's better suited on the defensive side. I think
Yeah,
they
I
have
would
a lot of
agree.
weapons. Maybe bring him in on offense for some trick plays just to kind of keep the defense off balance. But a lot of people just let that slip by. They just
Yeah,
picked in the top. They just picked in the top five, and now they have a chance to have the first overall seed in the AFC and get a bye. We haven't
yeah.
seen them in the playoffs in I think 7 years, and they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game that year, which was a fantasy year back when Gardner Minshew was Minshew mania in Jacksonville. Old Duval. Um,
Duval.
but I think Jacksonville's really gonna open up some eyes in the playoffs, and we'll see how they do in some cold weather games. I think that's going to be the big test for them. If they have to go on the road and play a Patriots team, or go on and they have to go.
That's gonna be tough.
If they have to play the Patriots or go back to Denver when it's even colder, Denver's not going to take that line down. So I think the biggest thing for them is keep pushing. Trevor Lawrence is really looking like the number one overall pick that they drafted him to be, to really alter that franchise. Just hopefully they keep building around him, but now they're going to have some higher draft picks because they're going to be winning in January. They're going to be playing when the season's over. So,
I agree.
um, so hopefully they keep it rolling because they're a fun team to watch right now. They weren't a team that I think anybody picked to even make the playoffs when the
I
season
did not.
started. They showed some flashes at the beginning of the year, but I think after they beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football back in Week 6, that's really when they started to open some eyes. Just that they were able to beat last year's AFC champ,
Hmm.
take down Mahomes, beat them on primetime football. Really, when they started to make a name for themselves, and then they just started rolling. I think a big game for me is when they started turning their season around. Is when they beat down on the Chargers, who was also looking like they're going to be a playoff team at 11-4 with Jim Harbaugh. They beat them by 4 scores. But no, it'll be fun to watch out for the Jags.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're not the only team from Florida that are representing in the playoffs, but if they are, they're going to be a fun one to watch, and I think they can really make some noise come January.
I think they're going to be the only team representing from Florida because I'm telling you right now, I'm a Bucks girl. I love the Bucks. I love Baker. I've loved Baker since he was on the Browns. um, but I tell you right now, I don't know if we have it together this year. We are also inundated with injuries, and I think that there's a lot of players that are playing injured right now, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Jags are all in. So watch out because they're coming full steam ahead.
I guess just kind of wrapping up the whole thing. I think we have a fun game tomorrow for Monday Night Football.
Purdy Rivers.
Purdy and
Purdy
Rivers
Rivers. Let's do it.
getting Grandpa off the couch at 44 years old to play on some primetime football. Obviously, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call. Um, I think that's going to be a fun game to watch. Jonathan Taylor's been a beast this year. He's had a little bit of a drop off lately, but I think not. I think on the flip side of that coin, not enough people are talking about the 49ers. They were also decimated by injuries, but it didn't
Yeah,
matter. Purdy's only played in half a dozen games this year. Looked like he really hasn't skipped a beat. McCaffrey looks like his old self again. He's the biggest thing for them is that McCaffrey stayed healthy all year.
I know. Don't jinx
Um,
it.
but
Knock on wood.
well, the guy I'm playing in fantasy has McCaffrey, so
And I have
I
Purdy.
never want to see anybody get injured. But
No.
no, I don't want to see that happen. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But obviously with guys like Bosa going out, Fred Warner going out, Ayuk's been out all year. Kittle missed quite a few games. Their offensive line's kind of been in shambles, for a good portion of the year. So not enough people are talking about them. I think they can make some noise in the playoffs too. They've been there, pretty frequently over the last decade or so. Um, Shanahan knows how to coach
Yeah.
in the playoffs, so I think he's going to have his guys ready, and they're going to make a nice little push towards the end of the season. And hopefully, they're treating us to a nice, fun game tomorrow, and hopefully Rivers can come out and ball out. But
I'm
they're
excited to
they're
watch
they're
that
really
game.
doing him a disservice. His first game against an NFL defense in 5 years, and they put him up against the Seahawks and the 49ers. So I mean, Steichen's really pushing hard for that playoff spot, but Rivers just is not the guy. I mean, just let the young kid do it. Let Riley Leonard go out and do it. You drafted him for a reason. I know you didn't draft him to be your guy right away, but
Yeah.
you're obviously going to move on from Daniel Jones after this year. They've already said it. You're not going to give him an extension. Let's see what the kid can do. then you really have an idea what you want to do in the offseason, and if you want to go out and get a quarterback, or if you need to, use your resources on something else. But if he's not the guy, that's fine. But you just wasted 2 first-round picks on Sauce Gardner, and now he's hurt. So they're kind of in flux right now, but hopefully they treat us to a good game, and hopefully those Christmas games are going to treat us to something good. Because I mean, really, at the beginning of the year, the matchups seemed fun, but I just don't really think they're going to leave us with a lot.
They're boring.
You got Cowboys and Commanders, Broncos and the Chiefs, and then you got the Lions and the Vikings.
I think the Chiefs Denver game would have been fun to watch if Mahomes was playing. And I'm very sad that he got hurt. I'm not a Chiefs fan. Um, Not really a hype girl with them. Like I no disrespect, I'm just not a Chiefs fan. But I think that since he got hurt and now Gardner Minshew is potentially hurt with the same injury, like the third QB helmet is um a rookie that they drafted. That's like I don't even know his I can't even pronounce his last name. So like kudos to you for trying to fill like two very large shoes. Um I just don't think they're going to be fun games to watch. And honestly, I don't love the fact that they're playing games on Christmas. I really don't. Thanksgiving is one thing, but now that the NFL has started playing games on Christmas, it's like I think that Christmas is more so a time to be with your family. No, literally nothing is open on Christmas Day. There's no stores open. So why are we watching football? Time to kind of like turn off the TV, hang out with family, and just chill and hang out with your kids and watch them open presents and go crazy and clean up all the wrapping paper and just eat a lot of food. But um, this year, we've got 3 games.
And if you're gonna do games on Christmas and Thanksgiving, don't let it be a lot of the same teams that played on
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
yeah.
The Chiefs and the Cowboys, they both played on Thanksgiving.
So did the Lions.
The Lions played on Thanksgiving. Give these players at the end of the day, yes, they're making ungodly amounts of money to play a
Yeah.
kids game, but they still are human beings. They want to spend time with their families, with their kids. That's a memory that they're going to miss, that they're not
Yeah.
going to be able to get back with their young kids, opening gifts, seeing their faces, and now they got to go out and do their job. I know there's a lot of people out there that have to work on Christmas, and shout out to you guys. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's crazy. I can't even imagine having to work on Christmas. So
Yeah.
I hate it for the players. Hopefully they can go out and stay as focused as they can. I personally think the best performance out of the 3 games is going to be Snoop's halftime show at the Lions Vikings game.
Hell
That's going to
yeah.
be the best performance of the hell yeah, cuz.
I think it's going to be fun too. But with all that being said, um, this was a great hot take conversation. I still think you're wrong about the Bills.
It's fine. We'll see in a couple weeks.
We'll see.
Yeah.
That's what this is about.
We're going to go right back to that clip too.
That's fine. We can rewind that take. If I'm wrong, I will own it. If I'm wrong, I will absolutely own it. I will put myself on blast. You got it. In a couple weeks, we will see.
And I'll say it on recording right now. If I was wrong about the Bills, I was wrong about the Bills. But right
Yeah.
now, I'm sticking to it.
That's his story.
And I'm sticking to it like glue.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us. Us couch coaches got to get back to watching more football so we can keep you all up to date with our hot takes, opinions, and theories, and sometimes wild assumptions. But you can follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram. They are linked here in the bottom of the video. And if you have any questions, we'd love to hear them. If you have any comments, let's chat. Let's see how you feel. And with that being said, your couch coaches are signing off for the night. Have a good one.